In previous videos, we saw that an online course is something that even as a solopreneur, you can deliver and launch rapidly. And we saw that $200 is the perfect price point. Now let's look at what you can actually do to create such a course. You have some kind of knowledge, you have some kind of experience and expertise, but how do you turn that into an online course? In this video, you'll discover 3 strategies for doing exactly that, for turning what you know into a valuable online course. But before we look at those 3 strategies, I need to talk about the 2 most common mistakes that prevent people from making a good course. Problem number 1 is the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is something that happens to all of us. It is simply one of the ways in which the human brain works. And that is that once you know something, it's very difficult to remember what it was like not knowing that thing. As soon as you have a new skill or you've acquired some knowledge, it kind of feels normal and you forget that you didn't always have it. And because of this leads us to undervalue and sometimes even be blind to our own knowledge and skills. There are 2 knock-on effects that follow from the curse of knowledge. One of them I'm sure you've experienced yourself, and the other I'm sure you've observed in someone else. So the first is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is when someone asks for our expertise. Maybe we're asked to give a presentation or a talk on a topic, and we feel like, oh my God, they want me to speak about this? They think I'm an expert? It feels to me like, everybody else must know the things I know, more or less, and there are other people who are way better at this than me, who know way more. And worst case, I kind of feel like a fraud, right? I feel like if people only knew, they would find me out and they would kick me out. This is known as imposter syndrome. It happens even to world-leading experts and even to people who have basically given talks and written books and so on all their lives. It still happens. It is because we are blind to our own knowledge and our own skills that we often feel like, well, if people only knew what this feels like, they wouldn't ask for my expertise. If you fall into this trap, the result can just be that you don't create a course because you feel like you don't know enough. There's also another knock-on effect of the curse of knowledge, and we've all experienced that by being bored in a lecture or in a class. I'm sure you've had a teacher or professor who clearly knew what they were talking about, clearly a very knowledgeable person, but they just could not explain things to like normal human beings. And that's because, again, the curse of knowledge, they basically couldn't imagine how little their students understood of this topic, and so everything they say just goes over everyone's head. So this is when someone suffers from the curse of knowledge and makes a course anyway, but the course just ends up not being good for the students. The second major mistake that people make when building online courses is to think that an online course is like an information download. It's to think that, okay, I'm making a course about topic X, therefore I have to put everything I know about topic X in that course. And in fact, a high-value course must contain more information, right? If I want to make this super valuable, I have to cram absolutely everything I know about this topic in. And the more stuff I cram into the course, the more valuable it is. This is a huge mistake, and in most cases it's the exact opposite. After a certain point, the more stuff you cram into the course, the worse it gets. It's also something that prevents people from making a course because they're intimidated. It's like, oh my God, I have to know everything and then put everything in a course. This is going to take forever. And this is simply not the way to go about making a good course. So with that said, here are the 3 strategies you can follow to create a kick-ass course. Strategy number 1 is to become a course sculptor. See, I have news for you regarding the information download I talked about before. People don't want to buy your online course. And there's nothing personal. People don't want to buy my online course either. In fact, in general, people don't want to buy courses. See, when someone buys a course, it's not because they want to hear someone talk for several hours about a topic. People want outcomes. People have goals they want to reach. People have problems they want to solve. And people have transformations they want to experience. An online course is a means to an end. I'm not trying to get all the information. I'm trying to reach a certain outcome. This is why when we have a problem or we want to achieve a goal, we usually go and do a search for exactly how do I do the thing. We don't start reading the encyclopedia from cover to cover in order to maybe discover the answer inside the world's knowledge. So the strategy here is to realize that people want a very specific outcome, and you want to create an outcome-oriented course. And that means you must become a sculptor. You need to take the block, the unrefined block of all the knowledge, all the things that could be said about a topic, and you need to sculpt this. This is a process of removal much more than addition. You want to sculpt and eventually polish down to the perfect shape, to the perfect remainder of the entire block that makes a good course. It's a huge mistake to think that what I need to do to deliver a better course is deliver a larger block of knowledge. What I need to do is I need to create a more streamlined, more finely sculpted, outcome-oriented program. I need to select from all this information. I need to select what actually matters for my student to reach the desired outcome. That's the general principle that you should operate under to make it much easier for yourself to create a more valuable course. With the next strategy, let's go deeper and let's look at a specific method to follow in order to do this. Strategy number 2 is what I call the big 3. Taking your topic and keeping the outcome that your customer wants to reach in mind. Think about the top 3 most important things that you need to convey in your course. So this is a practical way of doing that reduction I talked about, right? We need to whittle down the entire knowledge to what is the most important stuff, what is the most important thing I can teach. And this is going to be tough to do, you'll want to do more, but really reduce it down to the 3 most important things in terms of knowledge, skill, and exercises that your customer needs to have to reach their outcome. These 3 top priorities will be the 3 modules in your course, right? You'll have 3 main modules. Now you take each of these and from the top priority, you walk back to the point of knowledge and skill at which your customer currently is. And all the steps from where they are to that main priority, those are the lessons in your module. Let's make this a bit more practical with an example. Okay, let's take weightlifting. Let's say I make a course about weightlifting. My goal is to teach weightlifting, and I whittle it down to the 3 most important lifts, right? There's 3 major lifts that I'm going to teach. That's the most important stuff. One of these exercises is the squat. And the mistake that we often make is to think, okay, we're going to start with Anatomy 101. We're going to learn about the human body, about the bone structure, about muscles, about tendons, and so on and so forth. And we're just going to cover everything there is to know about anatomy and training, and somewhere in there, somewhere in that massive cloud of information, we have the information we need in order to do a good squat. Now you can argue that all of these things are important and all of these things play into the final result of a strong squat, including understanding how your skeleton works. But that doesn't mean all of these things are essential. The more non-essential things we add, the longer the distance between where the customer is and the outcome that they want. So we really want to streamline that down. So in this case, we want to walk back from the strong squat we want our customer to be able to do back to where they are and teach exactly the things that this customer needs to know about mobility, about strength, about movements, exercises, and so on, that takes them in the shortest possible line, in the straightest line from where they are to the desired outcome. So that's one lesson. You do that for your 3 top priorities. This way you end up with a course that has 3 modules, and each module has the essential exercises, the essential steps as lessons that take the customer from where they are to the desired outcome. And taken all together, this is a streamlined, highly valuable course that helps the customer in an essential way without overwhelming them, right? Without like knowledge vomiting all over them, and without just overwhelming them and making them give up before they ever get anywhere. By designing a course following the big 3 strategy, you help your customer achieve important goals as quickly as possible. And this brings us to strategy number 3, where you might be wondering, well, how do I find out whether I have the right steps? How do I know where my customer is at and how to design all of these modules? Well, this is strategy number 3, customer development. One of the best ways in which to develop course content and to find out whether what you're teaching is relevant and whether it works, and also to avoid the curse of knowledge, is to work with people directly. That can mean anything from getting on a phone call or a Skype call with someone to coaching someone one-on-one, or even just sending out surveys. You want to take steps to get direct interaction with potential customers. In previous videos, I've talked about the principle of rapid implementation, and this is that in action again. See, when you work with someone directly, and the more directly you work with someone, the shorter your feedback loop is, right? If I have an idea for something I want to teach, and I explain it to someone out loud, I get immediate feedback, confused look on their face, immediately tells me something is unclear, and I can course correct in the spot. If I design and create an entire course, it takes me maybe a month or 2 to do that, then I launch it, try to get some customers, some people buy it, and finally someone sends me a message saying, you know what, this doesn't make any sense to me. That is a hell of a lot of work to do to get the same insight I could get in a single conversation with a person. There's another benefit to working with people directly, and that is that many people find it intimidating to have to give a talk, to have to record a video, or to think about, oh my God, how do I put together lessons for a course? But if I simply ask you, explain this thing to me, right? I don't know how to do this, explain this thing to me. You'll probably just start talking. And the way you explain things is the way you should be explaining things online. The way you choose, where do you start your explanation, what things do you tell me, and how do you lead me to the answer I'm looking for, that is how you should structure your course. Most of us are capable of doing this because we have practice explaining things and we have practice talking to people. It's just that when we switch context out of talking to someone to, oh my God, I have to make a course, we feel like this is something totally different and we forget everything we actually already know about how to teach. By doing customer development, and customer development is just a fancy way of saying talking to people and talking to potential customers and working with them. By doing this, we have another element of rapid implementation that we can include into the strategy that I've laid out in the past few videos. So what you have now is you have a clear idea of how to develop the content and validate the content idea for an online course, how to put together the actual course material, how to price it, and how to do a launch, even on a tight deadline and even all by yourself. Like I said in the previous video, I think this is the best business model there is for entrepreneurs, especially to start with. I highly encourage you to take action on what you learned. So leave a comment below letting me know what your biggest lesson was from these 3 videos so far and what questions you have. Think about what would it take for you to start building a course right now. What questions do you see? What challenges do you see? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts with me.